All right, I think I'm going to try to do this one with the camera and have my book in hand. So we're about this far through the book so far, even though we have another 100 pages to go to catch up to where I am. I will try to kind of zip through this one. We stick with the people within Kapistan. Now I want to go over the little blurb that they have at the start of this. Where I haven't done that for a little while here, but this one's interesting at the start of chapter 10. Mother Dark begat 3 children. The first, Tistandi, were her dearest, dwellers in the land before light. These are dark-skinned. They were birthed in the pain of the second, Lians, the burning glory of light itself. And so the first, the Tistandi, denied their mother in their fury, and so were cast out. Doomed children of Mother Dark. Suppose that's why they maybe don't have much of a... they don't take much heed in what happens afterwards. They've been cast out. She then gave rise in her mercy to the third, spawn of the war between dark and light, these gray-skinned Edur, and their shadow. There was shadow upon their souls. Sounds like these guys were the most brutal, if I'm reading that right. So we get to this first scene, and I already kind of mentioned it, where Buke is trying to kind of help out Gruntle. Buke has gone through loss before. And Gruntle is just starting that process through the death of Harlow. It's bugging... Buke is trying to help him out. And Stani is kind of frustrated. We'll get to that. But this Panian army has crossed the river, and the investiture has begun, which is a part of this embrace, I guess. And it will be there at Kapistan before the day's done. So it's time for Gruntle to sober up. And I don't want to go into it really much again. Gruntle's like, well, are you still in the employ of Beauchelane and Corbel Broach? He's like, yes, but we're not talking about me now. We're talking about you. You need to cheer up. Yes, Harlow died, but it's only senseless when the living... let's see. This is what Buke says about that death, because Gruntle's like, it was pointless. It was a senseless death. They're all pointless and senseless, friend, until the living carve meaning out of them. What are you going to carve? So we kind of switch to a point where now the Panians are really close. And the first body has been found. Only about 100 paces away. Disemboweled. Organs missing. And that basically means it's happening. It's here. Go tell the prince. And this is a really interesting part here, because they know that they're going to be knocking down the walls, unleashing demons, raising corpses. But there's another possibility. What if we can get these Panians to annoy the Talani mass? That will get them involved. And what happens when the Talani mass really finds something to be upset about? Do we need these Panians to start messing with some of their doggos? These undead doggos, will that do it? But man, there are a lot of big things, things that can go off. There's these murder victims that are piling up that I believe is from Corbel Brooch. And that's a part of what Buke is trying to stop. He goes out at night hunting, and Gruntel's like, you better not follow this guy. He probably already knows that you are following him. He will sniff you out. And Buke says, well, maybe not if I had some help. Maybe if you help me out. Beauchelane is the one that they really need to worry about in a way, because he's the brains. He's the one that will sniff them out. And then Corbel Brooch is more of like a childlike psycho. Unpredictable. See, a malign child. Ooh, that makes him very dangerous. And now Gruntel's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but let me think about it. Woohoo! That makes us excited. And Buke, Gruntel's head is about to explode. He's got a headache. Everything's killing him. Buke says, what you need is a priest with the power to heal. I know just the man. And that is this Destriant guy. So we get to the masked council. Or we get to this meeting between the masked council, people from the Grey Swords, and all this stuff going on. They talk about the besieging army, perhaps 80,000 of them now, and growing. They talk about the Tenoskri, and their wild-haired women of the dead seed, and their shrieking feral offspring. Scavenging parties, and they talk about how in this other city, and there were 100,000 Tenoskri, with more arriving on barges with every bell. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And so it's time to really talk about how they're going to deal with this. And so they're going to Thrall, which is kind of the meeting place. And all these soldiers are kind of white-faced and terrified. They know what has happened in other cities. They know that it is not looking good. That there's reported about 80 Kell Hunter Dino dudes in the north. And the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to send them to the north of the city as kind of the opening move to assault the north gate. The gate will be shattered, and that's when the slaughter will really begin. And then from the south and the other gates, that's when Kulpath, the leader of the Panions, kind of the sergeant or, field general, whatever you would call him, will start doing their thing. So we know that the Talani mass will probably stop all these Kell hunters and things like that. And so they know their first two moves, which I find interesting. But there's no way of really predicting the next move. So they have to do their best. They know that he will have to have another option after that, and they don't know where he's going to go to. It falls to us to predict that adjustment. Now, they know about the Summoner, and they know about the Malazans, and it's going to take them about 6 weeks to get there. It's going to be a little bit slow-moving to carefully make their way there. And that's not going to be enough. This other city, Seta, was destroyed in much less time than that, 3 weeks or something like that. They were more organized. They had way better defenses ready, and now they're supposed to wait 6 weeks. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. And this is when let's see. We have the kind of this leader of the trio of the Barghast, this Hetan. And this is when she kind of is going to really come forward and say what she has to say. They will kind of turn to her and ask, hey, what if all the Barghast, the white-faced clans were to arrive and to kind of help us out? How long would that take? And she says, well, that's never going to happen. We've never been unified. There are about 70,000 of us broken up into these different tribes. But I don't think that's never going to happen. Skip to the council scene where we have, everyone within Kapistan trying to figure out what to do. The masked council's kind of like, we just got to give up. This is not going to be good for us. We kind of this is not working. They're not spreading much hope here. Berkelane steps into the center of the chamber and presents Hetan and Kafel, the Barghast. They were requested by the masked council to make introductions. And then he says, now that I've made the introduction, let's depart this session. Which is kind of funny. Like, I've made your introduction, but we're not going to talk. But we have this amazing thing that happens. Hetan steps forward. I mean, there's lots that happen. We can't go through all of it. But it's just my reaction of how I remember it. And I'm just skimming through some of this. She steps forward and says, the white face is in mourning. Kind of a call for help, a plea for help. And it's not the first time. And they're like, again? The answer was no the first time, the second time, no every time. This audience is closed. It is not, she shouts. You dare address us in such a tone? Now, she came with a plan, and she's clever. And she is the daughter of this main Barghast kind of warlord. Even though they're not unified, they kind of they give him his respect or whatever. They recognize him there. And she's one of his children. And more than just how powerful he is respected and feared for his great intelligence. And of all his children, this Hetan lady is the most like him. And she's come with a bit of a gamble. She's going to bluff and say, look careful upon the sorcery. Oh, wait. That's not quite right. That's Ecovian. Oh my God. Anyway, whatever. I may edit that part out, or I may forget. Anyway, Ecovian stumbles over to Carnardes and says, look at this sorcery that you see here. There's something going on. Not a simple shaman's magic. The Barghast spirits have assembled. The Barghast spirits are here. And she's going to do this bluff that is basically, she wants to be able to bring pilgrimage to this area, saying that the Barghast were here first. which is something that everyone denies. And she says, I have come to claim the bones of these original Barghast types. I know I'm not getting that totally right, but I've come to kind of stake my claim, and here's the proof, and it's here. And most of them say no, and this bluff kind of works. And there's these few wrath priests who say, okay, well, we actually know about this. And so they, right in the middle of the floor, they have these minor people come in with picks and start breaking up the floor. Everyone's just at the edge of their seat. And even she's like, oh my goodness, it worked. It is actually here. She didn't even know for sure it was, but it worked. Clever. And they open up and they see below these canoes. Remember, they were seafarers. These canoes. And there are these bones kind of loosely wrapped in linens and things. And people just can't believe it. And this kind of gives credence to what's going on. And I know I'm skipping some things, but I want to get to the rest of this book. I can't react on every single scene of this. But what an interesting thing that happens here. Now, they are not able to extract those bones, and because the siege is already upon them. And really, now they're thinking, especially Wrath Shadowthrone, who's kind of being a vocal antagonist here, is and he's being a little bit of a chicken. He's like, well, how can we get the Barghast to come bail us out? And she's again saying, this isn't our fight. But if they were to have those bones, this would give them some, this would kind of answer some questions for them and really be a point of bringing people together. Imagine, like, I mean, the Ark of the Covenant being found. I know people would anyway, whatever. It's just this big thing being as if I know there's this jade kind of statue in China that if that was found, that was like a major symbol of I believe of having, sometimes it would be a scepter or something like that. There's this jade symbol that's lost that they've been looking for forever. And these bones, remember, what they want the most is their history back. And this would be a major thing. And if they could unify those people and those Barghast people, that would be, again, a major, major thing. And also that's what Trotz is on his way doing. Now we skip to Stani, who is kind of frustrated and with Gruntle and says, you got to apologize. You got to apologize to Karuli. He bailed you out. And Stani has kind of become this little bit of she's a believer now, which is strange. He's a believer. She's a believer in what this Karuli guy is preaching and whatever. His elder gods, not one for pomp and ceremony. It takes spilled blood to sanctify the elder god's holy ground. So she kind of knows what's going on. So and this Newt, remember, this Krull was in this, he made this temple out of all this blood and awful stuff that happened. Now in this area, in this city, just recently in Kapistan, a whole family has committed suicide. So that's kind of, in a gross way, sanctified this house into a temple for Krull. And that's where I believe Karuli is now, which is, I mean, really nasty stuff. And interesting to see that dynamic. Anyway, he goes and talks to Karuli and thanks him. And Karuli basically says, I have something for you and your friend, for their endeavors to make sure that things work. Karuli wants Buke to succeed in what he's doing, as dangerous as that is. And he has this clay bird that he wants them to crush it, and wants Buke to crush it and drink it. And this will be a way of kind of helping him out in what he's doing, in whatever way. Without doing that, he won't have these benefits that will help him with the task. But also, you, Gruntle, need to stay close by. That's all he asks. Stay close by while this is going on. Now, the whole city is in a panic. It's like ants kicked in a nest. Now, we skip down, and I think we're right near the end of this chapter. We skip down back to Hetan and these dugout canoes. And they see that some of them are these Tisten Ur, which I believe are the second. Oh, doesn't. These Tisten Ur. Remember, they're all kind of related. The enemies of our founding spirits, gray-skinned. And let me make sure I have this right. And they had gone collecting. They had gone to fight these demons and things upon the blue wastes, which is the oceans, I believe, to drive them forth, perhaps to another continent. And they may be living on this other continent to the southeast. So, yippee, we get to learn about some more people eventually. And bring attention to the Tist Edur, which were the gray-skinned, believed extinct, and thankfully so. I guess they were very dangerous. And anyway, we find out some more foreshadowing that they can understand the language of the Moranth, because it's related to this first language. And anyway, I want to skip a little bit. There's this more panic, and then it ends. Right around here, they're kind of getting ready for this siege to really take place. And there's this Trake, this Wrath priest, Wrath Trake, I believe. And he's a little different from the rest of them. And he's kind of... Trake and Fenner don't get along. But he approaches these... the Mortal Sword and Ikovian, or whoever's there, this group. And says, you know... He says, do you wonder whose war this really is? It's one thing. Who is it who would dare cross blades with all of our lords put together? Whose hidden face lies beneath this fated ascension of Trake? I skipped over that, but if you've read it, then you'll know more about that. Number 3. When, I wonder, will you depose Wrath Fenner? Remember, they know that the Destriant has a higher seat than Wrath Fenner, and yet they still let him kind of run his mouth. They're like, when are you? But this Trake guy, this Wrath Trake, knows, when are you gonna depose him? As is your right as Fenner's Destriant. a title no one has rightfully held for 1,000 years, though they may have claimed it. Not rightfully, though. Why has Fenner seen the need to revive that loftiest of positions now? Very interesting. Wrath Fenner is no ally of yours, nor your gods. He senses the threat you present to him, and will do all he can to break you and your company. Should you ever require assistance, seek me out. Awesome. Awesome. Now, that is that one. In the next chapter, I think that is the one where we get to Trots and Perrin, and they're at this Barghast thing, and maybe one of the coolest chapters again. So I will see you on the next one. I hope you found this interesting. I don't know if I'll do the next one audio only or in this format. When I do audio only, I can be a little bit more organized and maybe have some notes. On this last one, I had notes, and it kind of helped me move things along. But sometimes I like to just think things through as I go. So I'm still trying to kind of find my rhythm with that, and I'm still going to commit to going through this entire book in this format. So I will see you on the next one. Thanks.